So anyways, what I did is I looked at the benefits of accreditation and looked at understanding what benefits there were in that. So I went to the CALEA site, called them up, had about an hour conversation. They were very helpful, and they pointed to me to some different departments around the state. So I interviewed 10 different departments and went through and just kind of looked at it from a benchmarking standpoint. And I was very impressed with their national accreditation. I was very impressed with some of the programs and the community outreach programs. So what I've done is I've asked a few of them if they'd be willing to see the police commission here just on a fact-finding mission, looking at what how their departments are transformed with accreditation and some of the systems that they have in place based on best practices. And one department was highlighted, and I've already discussed with them coming there myself, because I have some questions in regards to some of their programs, and to look a little bit more in depth, and they're very open to it. If anyone here wants to join me, I'd be willing to organize it, and you can go in your own cars and stuff. I won't be transporting yet, but I can set it up. The interest here is not to create a situation to draw comparisons, because I think that'd be unfair to the chief, and I think it'd be unfair to the other chief from the other department. But the idea would be to look at their programs and how they've transformed in regards to accreditation.
Good. Fred, were you here during the accreditation process here?
Yes, I was.
So most of our AOMs, John, correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, are based on going through that national accreditation, are they not?
That was correct. It was Chief Oliver and the Lieutenant LaPlante,
yes,
who became acting chief, were the drivers of that. We had even on-site reviews here. And that was delayed during Chief Oliver's illness and subsequent leave of absence. And then we had a temporary chief in place, and then we had a permanent chief. We hired Steve Grafiotis. The process just went to the back burner, and I don't think ever moved forward.
I can add to that also, if it's okay. Fred will remember when I was hired, you mentioned in a posting which I did recently about my failure to reach accreditation. Accreditation had failed before I was hired.
I believe that's the case.
Accreditation had failed before I was hired. One of the things that I told the commission, Fred was the chairman, I believe when I was hired, was that accreditation was one of the programs I was going to look back into why it had failed and getting it going again. This department had actually looked at accreditation back in
1994 was when it began.
Even before that, because I was a lieutenant who had looked into it. When we looked at the program in '99, when I came back as chief, what we found were there were many problems with the way the program was put in place. It was not put in place here, and this is nothing the commission was involved in, but it was not put in place. The structure as far as what you found out from CLIA, how you develop the program, that process has not taken place, number one. Number two, a lot of the policies have been stolen from other agencies, which is fine because you don't want to reinvent the wheel, but the policies were not written for the facts of life of the size and scope of folks at New Hampshire. So what I found when I came in '99 was a lot of the officers were not following at that time many of the policies, and the majority of them had to be rewritten because they were written for an agency that was much, much larger. So there was no rhyme or reason to following them, given our size of the department, size of the town, equipment available, and whatever. The other aspect that came up during that time was that they're looking at the process. There had been some financial irregularities, which the Attorney General's office was brought in and dealt with in that process. Ultimately, because of those three issues, I did report ultimately to the commission that at that time, because we were a department that was, I think, only 24 officers then and was understaffed then, that accreditation, while a great thing, because I've gone to the accreditation schools, I have a lieutenant that goes every year to them. And so it's not unknown to us, but that was not on the front burner. And because of those three problems. But accreditation was done before I was hired. It had failed, if you will.
Yeah, and the minutes actually respond to that, and I tend to be blunt, and of course emails are.
Well, that's why I wanted to give you the history. So for going what you're talking about for the future, one of our lieutenant that does a lot of our admin stuff, he continues to go to the clear training around the state. What we have looked at, and I've talked to past commissions about, is before this department can jump into that, I believe it would be better to start at the state level accreditation. The state, the police academy has a state level accreditation.
Right.
Level 4 of that, unless they've changed the levels recently, is actually national accreditation.
Yeah. I went through, and because I talked about what were the pitfalls and such with a lot of these departments. A lot of them are very tiny departments which achieve state level accreditation.
Right,
and
exactly.
some of them are around actually smaller than us.
Right.
And then some, of course,
Right.
larger than us.
And my lieutenant who does the policies, and as Fred said, the policies then, the ones that were borrowed from other agencies,
Right.
we're constantly rewriting them. But for a number of years, we had to rewrite almost the whole book to get them to our thing.
Yeah,
But for the future, our plans are to look at that, but we need two things. We need the staffing, and with all the default budgets we've had, the lieutenant that's going to do that project, and he knows that's one of his projects. Right now, there's no way that one person can do it with all his other assignments. So if you look in the current past budget, there is a civilian position that has not been budgeted for or filled for a number of years. That position was going to work with him, take care of the vehicles and some other issues,
Right.
and then he could jump into accreditation.
Right.
So
Well,
accreditation has never been off
Right.
the radar, but it's been put on the back burner trying to get through default budgets. And now this year, our operating budget, while the number is bigger, actually our actual money to function operationally is lower than it was last year.
Yeah. I called the,
Hold on a minute, Joanne, you have
While you were talking, I had a couple of questions.
certainly.
The departments that you went and looked at,
I haven't
or,
looked at them.
I mean,
Yeah.
that you went online to look at,
I
okay?
actually
Were
talked
they
to them.
equal in size to Hooksett,
Yeah,
or were
actually-
they much larger, or?
Actually, if you go to the CAL, Talia, or whatever they guess it is, Talia, org site, you can actually go and list them. And actually, some of them, in Lee, New Hampshire, this is some of the 4. Now, I come back, I've done this type of accreditation stuff like ISO 9000, ISO 14000 for major corporations. I work for Hitachi. A lot of these things are pretty straightforward. You just have to have a commitment to do it. I would disagree. My feeling is that this thing was cut off too soon. I think they had 4 years into it, plus money into it. But that's just my opinion. What I've seen, though, is when you look at some of these guys and you interview them, you talk to them, once they get that commitment, they push it through in 18 months, which is very similar to ISO in my experience with a lot of those accreditation processes. Because a lot of stuff is in line. But I think one of the things is because adoption of best practices, first it's very hard to get any information here. I mean, all these sites, all these places have very extensive sites and stuff, annual reports, criminal statistics and stuff like that. It's really well done.
Now-
But anyways, I'm offering.
What was
Sure.
the community that you were talking about that offered?
Well, I talked to a bunch of them, but I thought Durham was probably the best because it was a mixture between the UNH campus, which oscillates based on the volume of students, it was upwards of 18,000, plus a community of about 10,000, 8 to 10,000, depending on the statistics
okay.
you use for demographics. Also looked at their communications and the issues that they have in dead spots, looked at all kinds of stuff in regards to how they've implemented programs. Which impresses me with their chief is that he's a person that looks at building block mentality, like the idea of basically looking at a system, implementing it, adjusting at the end. His strategic plan is top notch. As a matter of fact, he wrote an article on it, and I'd recommend you read that. It's really a good thing. So if anyone's interested in going, I'd be more than happy to organize it. I know Lieutenant Klein has my email. I think the captains do too. But I'll be here till the end. I can give you a business card.